During World War I, when a blockade threatened the lives of many civilians in Haifa, Abdu'l-Baha saved them from starvation. He personally organized extensive agricultural operations near Tiberias, thus securing a great supply of wheat. Food was stored in underground pits and elsewhere. This he distributed to the inhabitants, regardless of religion or nationality. The food was systematically rationed. Having started his preparations as early as 1912, he averted tragedy in the dark days of 1917 and 1918. At war's end, the British were quick to recognize his painstaking accomplishments. He was to be knighted on 27 April 1920 at the residence of the British governor in Haifa, at a ceremony held especially for him. British and religious dignitaries came to honor him on this auspicious occasion. His unselfish acts had won him the love and respect of high and low alike. Abdu'l-Baha consented to accept the knighthood, but he was not impressed with worldly honor or ceremony. Even a formality must be simplified. An elegant car was sent to bring him to the governor's residence, but the chauffeur did not find the master at his home. People scurried in every direction to find him. Suddenly, he appeared, alone, walking his kingly walk, with that simplicity of greatness which always enfolded him. Isfandiar, his longtime faithful servant, stood near at hand. Many were the times when he had accompanied the master on his labors of love. Now, suddenly, with this elegant car ready to convey his master to the governor, he felt sad and unneeded. Intuitively, Abdu'l-Baha must have sensed this. He gave him a sign. Isfandiar dashed off. The horse was harnessed, the carriage brought to the lower gate, and the master was driven to a side entrance of the garden of the governor. Isfandiar was joyous. He was needed even yet. Quietly, without pomp, Abbas Effendi arrived at the right time, at the right place, and did honor to those who would honor him. When he was made Sir Abdu'l-Baha Abbas, Knight of British Empire, a title which he almost never used. Whenever possible, Abdu'l-Baha attempted to avoid unnecessary fanfare. Once, wealthy visitors from the West planned an elaborate pre-meal, hand-washing scene for him. It included a page boy, a clean bowl with crystal water, and even a scented towel. When the master saw the group walking across the lawn, he knew their purpose. He hurried to a small water trough, washed as usual, and then wiped his hands on the cloth of the gardener. Radiantly, he then turned to meet his guests. The preparations meant for him, he used for them. Abdu'l-Baha laid the cornerstone of the house of worship in Wilmette, Illinois, on 1 May 1912. A temporary tent covered a spot of prairie overlooking Lake Michigan. People from different nationalities were on hand to ceremoniously turn over a bit of soil. An ordinary spade was used, but when the master's turn came, he was handed a golden trowel. He handed it back and used instead the same spade as the others. He then laid the cornerstone. Abdu'l-Baha inspired the creation of a local spiritual assembly in New York City. Lulie Matthews, one of those present when the friends met to form their first local institution, recalled that they had very little idea of how to proceed. Anxious to impress each other, they first sat stiffly along the wall. No, a circle would be better, so they moved. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Grace Krug returned with a cablegram from Abdu'l-Baha. It stated simply, "Read Matthew, chapter 19, verse 30. They needed a Bible. Finally, both Bible and page were found. The message read, "But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first." Presto, we became as humble as mice, afraid lest that last place should be ours. Abdu'l-Baha gave us a wonderful lesson that evening. If we went away without too much knowledge of how to form an assembly, we learned a lesson in how to become Baha'is. Bathed in the aura of humility, the assembly came into being. Abdu'l-Baha's humility did not stem from any weakness. Once, when a child asked him why all the rivers of the earth flow into the ocean, he said, "Because it sets itself lower than them all, and so draws them to itself." In Philadelphia, Abdu'l-Baha spoke to the friends about the 19-day feast, which lies at the foundation of Baha'i spiritual and community life, and which is held at the start of each Baha'i month. He stressed the importance of this occasion. Each one of you must think how to make happy and pleased the other members of your assembly, and each one must consider all those who are present as better and greater than himself, and each one must consider himself less than the rest. Know their station as high, and think of your own station as low. Should you act and live according to these behests, know verily, of a certainty, that that feast is the heavenly food. That supper is the Lord's Supper. I am the servant of that gathering. Howard Ives wrote, "In all of my many opportunities of meeting, of listening to and talking with Abdu'l-Baha, I was impressed, and constantly more deeply impressed, with his method of teaching souls. He never argued, of course, nor did he press a point. He left one free. There was never an assumption of authority. Rather, he was ever the personification of humility. He taught as if offering a gift to a king. He never told me what I should do, beyond suggesting that what I was doing was right. Nor did he ever tell me what I should believe. He made truth and love so beautiful and royal that the heart perforce did reverence. He showed me by his voice, manner, bearing, smile, how I should be, knowing that, out of the pure soil of being, the good fruit of deeds and words would surely spring." Mirza Abul Faza'il was an outstanding Baha'i scholar. Early in this century, the master sent him to the United States of America, both to teach and to help the believers to deepen. After his return, he and a number of American pilgrims were seated in the presence of Abdu'l-Baha in Akka. The pilgrims began to praise Mirza Abul Faza'il for the help he had given them, saying that he had taught many souls, defended the cause most ably against its adversaries, and had helped to build a strong and dedicated Baha'i community in America. As they continued to pour lavish praise upon him, Mirza Abul Faza'il became increasingly depressed and dejected, until he burst into tears and wept loudly. The believers were surprised and could not understand this, even thinking that they had not praised him enough. Then Abdu'l-Baha explained that by praising him, they had bitterly hurt him, for he considered himself as utter nothingness in the cause, and believed with absolute sincerity that he was not worthy of any mention or praise.